I'm Mary Beth McAndrews from Dread Central. How are you?
Good, Mary Beth. How are you? What a delightfully southern name you have.
Wow, thanks.
I
So my
love it.
first question, thank you. My first question for you is, what draws you to vampires as a horror creature?
I mean, there is just something about them. They're so alluring. And I think humans have been fascinated with them since the dawn of time, right? Like every single ancient kind of civilization has stories about creatures that rise from the dead and that suck out blood and things like that. So I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just a sucker for I was, mind the pun. I really didn't mean it. I really didn't mean it. But yeah, I'm so drawn to them, right? They're like the better looking version of us. And you never know whether they're friend or foe. And there's just something so kind of haunting about that, you know?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And so with the invitation, where did the kind of idea, this specific idea and approach to vampires come from for you?
Yeah, so Blair Butler, who wrote the original script, and then we reworked it together. She brought the script to me, and I was really fascinated about this origin story of a Bride of Dracula. I felt like it had not been done before. I felt it was a really fresh and feminist take on an old genre, and also a contemporary take on an old genre. So yeah, I mean, to me, and also it was the way into the story. To me, Natalie Emanuel's character Evie, she's this, kind of lonely, struggling New York artist. I've been there. I moved to New York when I was 24 and I didn't know a soul. And I feel like that's really relatable.
Yeah.
And then she takes a DNA test and kind of everything goes awry. But she does that because she's looking for human connection. And I think that's really what the film is about.
And so you film in the most decadent, luxurious of places, it looks like. How did you find that location for filming?
I mean, it's just wild. We were filming in
It's
Hungary. Yeah, it's just crazy, right? It's so beautiful. Yeah, so we were filming in Hungary, and obviously we needed to look like countryside England. So we got the backstage tour of all these beautiful castles around Hungary, which was just such a joy. As like an ancient history buff, I was just
so
like in love.
cool.
And then I walk up, and there's this castle that's done in the Tudor style, which is a British, English colonial style. And I was just like, oh, this has got to be the one. And then when I found out that the castle was created or built by the great great grandson of Madame Bathory, who is, if you don't know, the Countess Dracula, who was the blood virgin who bathed in the blood of virgins. I was like, this is her great great grandson's castle. Oh, that's it. Here we go.
That's incredible. I would have been like, sold, thank you, no more, we're
Yes,
done.
and I was going to sleep in the castle overnight, but then I saw a portrait of her, and it's one of those portraits where she's always looking at you, and I was like, yeah, no, hard pass.
So, what do you have a favorite vampire that you always go back to as like your quintessential favorite vampire figure?
Oh, that's so interesting. I love that. Like a specific vampire. Well, I think Kronos by Guillermo del Toro is one of my favorite vampire films. Yeah, and not many people include it in their top 10, but it's actually a
They
beautiful
don't.
film. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
because it's got a lot of heart. It's about a grandfather and his granddaughter who doesn't want to let him go, and he kind of becomes an accidental vampire. And I just think that film is beautiful. And that's what's great about Guillermo's films in general. He always just creates creatures with a lot of heart and a lot of empathy. Yeah, so he's that's probably my favorite.
Amazing. And so, with the vampires that you're creating, obviously you have like there's a very gothic sensibility to them. But were there any particular texts besides obviously Bram Stoker's Dracula that you were kind of looking at to create your vampire, but also active traits of vampires you're maybe trying to subvert and creating your own version of the bloodsucker?
Yeah, exactly. So I actually went back through history and kind of read a lot about where like the early kind of origin stories of vampires. And I
Yeah,
realized that we've created a lot of myth in the last 30 years that actually isn't from, which is fine, but it's just not from the original. So
yeah.
the original vampires could walk around during the day. They just lost their powers. So I decided to go back to that, harken back to that original text, and that's why we see them walking around during
Ooh.
the day. Though, and I think it's great because it suspends disbelief, right? Because we think that they're human because they're during the day. But that's actually how Bram Stoker has it in his book. That's how it was actually in a lot of the kind of ancient proverbs and things like that. But really, with the other vampires in the film, I decided, wouldn't it be interesting if you lived forever as this version of yourself, that era that you were turned would influence how you speak, how you act, how you dress. And so with the other characters in the film that become vampires, and I won't spoil who, I really told the costumers and the hair and makeup artists and the actors to really focus on a time period. So whether that's the 1920s or the 1600s, and to focus on that, because that's what you would, I think, that's your origin, right? So you would kind of go back to that. So that's kind of how I kind of decided to mold those characters.
That's amazing. And so what was it like directing Natalie Emmanuel and Thomas Doherty together? Especially they have really great chemistry on set and on the film. So what was that like directing the pair of them?
Yeah,
throughout the
well,
film?
individually, Natalie and Thomas are both delightful human beings and wildly talented. And Natalie was always in my, top position for this role. And I'm so glad she, responded to the character. Thomas, I actually didn't know. I found him on an audition and was absolutely blown away. And I just think he was born to play this character.
So good.
Yeah, amazing. And the two of them together, one, I think it really helps. I have a no asshole on set policy, and they're both lovely, lovely human. They both stand up to that policy. And Natalie's an incredible leader. So as a number one and number two, they were wonderful to work with. And the chemistry is just, well, I think when you put good people in a room, when you put two good looking people in a room, it just naturally happens. But they were really respectful and honored each other. And I work a lot in rehearsals and I work a lot with them, and I'm a really active focused director. And we had a lot of time to really get to know each other and build trust. And I think that's important.
It's amazing. And my last question for you is, if you could program your perfect double feature with The Invitation, what film would you pair with it?
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I know that. I mean, that's such a good question. I wish I got this one preempted. I want to say you have to watch Kronos because it's the OG. But I mean, look, and I don't want to say Bram Stoker's Dracula because it's so campy. But I think a lot of people are saying this in the comments, and I agree. I'd pair it with Get Out.
Hell yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you. This is delightful. Thanks, Maria.
It was delightful. Have a great day.